In this video, I'm going to show you and teach you about the reason why communication fails for most people, what you're doing wrong, and the one simple trick that can get you so far ahead of the game as far as communication goes, just by understanding this, one basic framework in this way. So let's get into it. Most people fail at communication is because, how do I say this? They're doing it completely wrong. It's because most people are trying to communicate through intellect and their own view of the world, right? So no one sees the world that we do. Nobody does. And we're 8 billion people, everyone has different perspectives and different backgrounds and different traumas and the way that we sort of get our needs met. Everyone does that. And unless we actually try and communicate to the person we're trying to communicate or influence, right, the way that they see the world, then we will miss the mark completely. So I'll give you an example. Let's just say you're in a relationship and you've got let's say, husband and wife, okay? And the husband is more in the world of intellect, okay? They like to be seen as intelligent. They like to be seen that they problem solver. They are very head focused. They like to take action on things. They like to be smart, right? So their way that they actually see the world and whether they see their identity is based in, well, I want people to see me as being very intelligent because that's, really important to my job. And intelligence is actually what I rate as a very high thing. Now, let's just say we've got the partner in that view, in that relationship, and she's very driven by acceptance. And acceptance is the need to be wanted and seen and needed and and accepted, right? So if that guy who's intelligence driven is trying to communicate with his partner based on intelligence, what do you think happens? She just doesn't get it, right? And then he's thinking, I'm saying this to her, I'm saying all the right words. The book that says attachment styles on love languages and all that kind of say men are from Mars and women from Venus are saying I should be saying this, but he's speaking from his perspective. He's speaking from an intelligence perspective. Now, if I wanted to communicate with her, I would need to know, okay, I need to know how she sees the world. I need to know how she views herself. I need to see what her needs are, what's her decision patterns and all that kind of stuff. And once I understand that, then I go, okay, she's acceptance driven. And for whatever reasons that is, right? And so if I'm trying to communicate with her at a level that's intelligence based, she's not going to read anything. She's going to sit there looking at you going, what are you talking about? But if I come down to her level and go, okay, let me communicate in a way that helps her understand this. If I communicate at her level, which is an acceptance base, which wanting to be needed, heard, seen, valued, part of the group kind of stuff, feeling validated in that kind of way, then she gets the conversation. She'll understand exactly what you're talking about. And she'll go, oh, okay, Greg, right. I can see, right, that there is not really healthy for us. We're not doing things the right way. And you might say, if we do this, we change this communication style, I feel like you'll actually feel more needed and seen and you'll feel more safe, right? Because most people who are acceptance-based or have a big safety driver as well too. So if you communicate at a level that allows her to be understood at the acceptance level, and then if she comes back and says, well, that's a great idea. Where did you learn that? Help me understand, why did you actually say it this way? And then you sort of, she communicates back on the intelligence level, right? And then in this communication, you're both being heard and seen and valued and appreciated and understood, right? Because you're both communicating at the level that you both understand. Where communication goes wrong for most couples is we communicate from purely just trying to ram things down people's prefrontal cortex based on the way that we communicate. And that's why it all goes wrong, is because you're not taught communication skills through school. You're not taught communication skills at work. You may be a leader at work and we realize why your team's going backwards is because nobody's ever taught how to effectively communicate between people. Because you need to understand that to communicate effectively with other people, you need to understand that what's the language that they communicate in. And if you understand that, then you can talk to that need. You can talk to that desire. And when you do that, the people get seen and heard and valued and then understood. And then you can influence change. Because if you can't get through that first door by being understood, then the ability to influence anybody at that stage is zero, right? Because they're just trying to defend their own patch at that point, right? So, and this is why you're hearing so many couples counseling or therapy that's like, I'm just not being seen, I'm not being heard, I'm not being valued. But people are talking all the time, right? They were talking all the time about what's not working, but nobody's communicating at a level that people understand. And when you communicate at a level that people understand, magic happens, because then you can influence behavior in the place that you want to be able to go. And this is why most therapy fails. Like couples coaching, relationship therapy is a failure rate of like 70%, because people are teaching you systems, tools, and processes, not communication behavior. They're not teaching you about the art of human behavior. They're not teaching you about how people perceive the world and how to communicate at a level where the other person is going to get you. What they teach you is systems, tools, and processes that get rammed in through your prefrontal cortex through intellect, knowledge, and processes and systems. And that's never going to work. It never has worked, right? So if you're in a place where your partner does not get you, I get it, because I was there, right? This is why I learned this stuff. You have to understand and take a step back. How do I see the world? How do I perceive the world? How do I get my needs met? What are my desires? What are my decision patterns? How do I communicate with the external world? And then what's my identity? And that creates a map of who you are. And then go, okay, that's how I communicate. That's how I see the world. That's how I perceive the world. And then second thing is do the same with your partner. Okay, understand your partner's history, their perception, their insecurities, how they view the world, right? How they get their needs met, how they make decisions, and then get the map of like, oh, this person's pity-based, or they're intelligence-based, or they're strength-based, right? Or they're whatever other pattern that they are, right? And then go, right, this is how I communicate with people who want acceptance or approval. This is how I communicate with people who are pity-based or victim-based. This is how I communicate with people who are status-based, right? And when you know how to communicate with the way that they see the world and how they get their needs met, then, like I said, magic happens, because you're communicating with the part of the brain that then leads to human behavior influence. And nobody teaches this shit. They just teach us systems, tools, and processes. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want. You can read as many love language books as you want. We've got so much knowledge out there, so much information, and it's the reason why people are more disconnected than ever. And this is why I want to leave this video on. I'll keep saying it to people. The problem we have with people today is we are trying to change human behavior through the prefrontal cortex. We are trying to change it through information, intellect, and knowledge. That never works. People do not change behavior because of intellect or information. It doesn't happen. We are emotional, hormonal, feeling beings. We make all our decisions based on feelings, hormones, and emotions, and we justify it with logic. And if you understand how human behavior works, then you can influence a lot of things out there. But very few people do. They just have more knowledge and more information, and then realize why it doesn't work, because it doesn't. Because the prefrontal cortex is not the part of your brain that makes decisions. We may mistaken that it does. So if your relationship is on the brink of divorce, if you don't do this and understand human behavior, you're going to end up divorced or still in a very poor relationship. It just doesn't work. And you're then going to get frustrated with the fact of, I'm saying all these things, but it's not working. No, it's not going to work, because you're talking to the wrong part of the brain. So guys, I will keep saying this every YouTube video I have or video I have about understanding human behavior. It's the number one skill set you'll ever have, right? Learning about human influence and human behavior is paramount to having a successful life. So, and I will say this again ad nauseum, we are too intelligence, intellect, knowledge focused. We're using the wrong part of our brain to make change in people. It doesn't work. Change happens in the mammalian limbic brain, in our emotions, in our feelings, and our hormones. Marketers know this. That's why they market a certain way. So if you want to be able to improve your relationship, improve your career, improve yourself, and want to learn about deep human psychology and behavior patterns and make some profound change, reach out. I'll put a link below, and you can make profound changes in your life if you actually get a hold of this, because this is where real human influence happens at a deeper level, not the stuff that's out there about more knowledge, more information, more tricks, more prefrontal cortex. It doesn't work. That's why it's not working for you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Put the links below, and I'll see you in the next video. Catch you later.